One of the dirty little secrets of retro gaming YouTube is that whenever we talk about the last game for almost any given system, we are essentially lying to you. For instance, this is Cheese Catastrophe on the Master System. The last European Master System game. See, I'm doing it right now. It's for the best reasons though, as these older systems are decoded, as the people who grew up with them get older, then people have been making new games for most machines for years now. For instance, here are 4 boxed Master System games I own. None of them have anything to do with Sega and their licensing. Hook and Lemmings 2 were never released for the system, but the finished versions were leaked. Sonic Triple Trouble is one of nearly 200 games that enterprising modders have made the minor alterations to that let a Game Gear game run on the very similar Master System. The interesting one here though is Voyage, a game that was released in 2019 and a year later got this absolutely gorgeous proper cartridge release through 2 Mines, exactly 25 years after Sega thought the system was done. Voyage originated on the incredibly comprehensive site SMSPower, who every year hold a Sega 8-bit coding competition. We looked at the 2021 crop last year, which included a couple of very lovely Sokoban games and an entire fake MSX library. At the end of March, the class of 2022 was released, numbering a full 8 Master System games you can play today for free on your emulator, or if you're a fancy pants bastard like me, on an actual real Master System. Just because I can, everything you're about to see is captured from my own Master System 1, because I think effort like this deserves the red carpet. Well, with one exception, because there's actually 9 entries this year. Just one of them is for the Game Gear, and our Mixer 24's effort absolutely deserves to be shown off to you fine people. It's a game you probably think has been released for literally everything, and you're pretty much right. Tetris. So that's Tetris for Game Gear, and if you go to SMSPower you can actually rate it and help decide the competition. Hold on though, because before we do that I'm going to go through the 8 Master System entries in what I consider to be the 8th to first order. That said, while last year included some very basic, if excellent demos, everything this year is absolutely a playable game. SKAZKA, a Slavic RPG adventure. This is a new one on me. What we have here is what feels very much like it could be a Spectrum RPG from the early 80s. It's got all the pre-Bard's Tale requirements, a sword, a town, some enemies. What it's not yet got is a game. My sequence in this game, always on easy mode, runs roughly as follows. Go into forest, get wrecked. Buy sword, somehow get wrecked quicker. And while we wait for that to happen, I should say fighting consists entirely of selecting fight and nothing else. I buy the other thing that isn't a sword. I get wrecked. I go looking for advice. Other than discovering the other thing is probably entirely useless armour, I get advised to run away. This doesn't work. Ever. I tried it every single combat round and it wouldn't run away. Then I got wrecked. This isn't bad, it's just not a game yet. You really do need some way to actually affect your fate, or I'm missing something massive about how it's supposed to work. Take a look if you're adding everything to a flashcard or something, but if you're looking for a game, we've got better to come. Seagull. Well, this was inevitable, wasn't it? What's the one awful tedious craze of 2021-22 that you can't get away from no matter how you try because new versions keep popping up with new and more awful hashtags and you can never hope to block them all? It's Wordle, innit? And now you can experience it on Master System. Graphically, the simple layout of a Wordle suits the SMS down to the ground, and this appears to be a very straight conversion using a very straight word list. The controls are a little bit awkward, but fine once you realise where it's going with it. Maybe some sort of instructions would help here, but like many games in this list, this is early. Too early even for a title screen. Nonetheless, Will Britain's competition-focused ploy to use the video game equivalent of clickbait could well work out for him. And hey, maybe you could sell it to the New York Times for a couple of million if not. Dragonblaster. Shooters have a good record on the Master System, especially in homebrew. The single most technically impressive one on the machine is probably Flight of Pigorus, and that originated right here in 2019, and was also released physically by 2Minds. It's what I learned with this game is called a caravan shooter, where you have a strict time limit in which to score your points. This year, Dragonblaster continues that tradition, albeit with a shorter time limit. It too is a caravan shooter, but one that spends that time a little differently. This is clearly an early demo. Evaluating it as a game right now is made slightly trickier by 2 points. 1, there is no sound, and more importantly, 2, you can't die. Still, the gameplay is here, with a simple kill this many enemies based scoring system through the first part of your time, and so there is still scope for a high score challenge here. As a game, it's promising. There's a teeny bit of slowdown when things get very busy, but little of the sprite flickering that can plague a Master System game trying to throw a bunch of stuff around. This is true even when you hit 30 seconds to go and it transports you to the boss. And while said boss is as invincible as you are, he's also huge, and the game handles both him and several of the extra enemies around the joint. We shouldn't be surprised by this competence though, because we saw author Harold Oop last year with a demo of a conversion of Tyrion that was less complete than this game is, but was equally the basis of something good. Low in the order this one may be, but if Harold ever decides to write a complete shooter, I can see it winning a lot of fans. Food Fighter. Let's group these two, because like Dragonblaster, Food Fighter is a shooting game, albeit more of a Space Invaders clone, and it is also by Harold Oop. This is going above Dragonblaster in the list simply by virtue of being a more complete game. This has sound, and more importantly, this has you can die, thus making it a game. And it's a fun one. Ignore that graphical corruption at the top there, by the way. It doesn't appear in Harold's own video, and I'm assuming that's because we're judging these Master System games on a Master System like the crazy bastards we are. It works though. You've got 3 lives, you've got a variety of enemies, there's a complete, if simple, game here, which after 2 entirely incomplete ones from Harold gives me hope he can actually finish some of this one day because they have all been worth playing. Food Fighter itself is indeed the one of the two to play as a pure high score competition. Unlike a lot of things here, it could be classified as a complete, if slight, experience in itself. Nice! Knights of the Square. One of the more modern fads in retro gaming is what's known as the demake. It's remaking a game for a much lower spec machine, often changing 3D for 2D or entirely reimagining the thing. And that's kind of what we have here. You are currently watching Knights of the Round, a 1991 Capcom arcade release. Think Final Fight, or possibly even closer, Sega's Golden Axe. The tale here goes, though, that after a discussion of this on the SMSPower forum, Kage-san, better known to us as writer of Flight of Pigorus, suggested a low-res demake would be known as Knights of the Square. And apparently forum user Hang-On cannot resist a pun. Awesome, rather nice title music. Knights of the Square appears to be a collision between Knights of the Round, Wonder Boy, and maybe even something like My Hero. It's a basic side-scrolling stab 'em up with much to love. The art style is charming and the graphics really rather great. I have some issues with it. The timing sometimes seems a little bit out when I'm trying to stab enemies, and I almost wonder if it's tuned to take into account emulator lag I'm not experiencing here. Or I'm crap. The demo is also a very short game, consisting only of a 1-level run followed up by a boss battle, which is pretty easy, not least because it throws health at you like a VR gym advert. Still, it's a charming thing that could easily be built out into something a little more interesting. In this contest though, it really has one major issue. Last year we had 2 very good attempts at Sokoban that battled in the upper places, and the same is true this year with Slashy Runners. You'll have to wait for that other one though, because there's a couple of games that deserve to sit between them. Do the Same. Do the Same is a puzzle game. that worryingly feels like it could have been some kind of absolute obsession in the 1980s. It's like a sliding block puzzle, but somehow not as completely awful as those are. In essence, it's the same though. You have to rearrange your grid to the picture specified on the other side. For sane programming, the SMS version uses a range of fruits as icons, but there's no reason they couldn't be parts of an actual picture. Your only tool is to rotate groups of 4 icons at a time. I've never seen this done as a puzzle before, but it's very effective. You quickly get the basic tactics down, and even when it gets complex, you can work on parts of the image to make it work. Although do that quick, because it's about that point that I start to notice the really quite strict time limit. This is an arcade puzzler rather than a go away and think for an hour puzzler. With a password system, you'd love a handheld version of this one, and of course, if you have any number of retro handheld emulator consoles, that's exactly what you've already got. Limitations in this version are that most of the levels aren't implemented yet. The original Jaguar version from which it's derived had 122, but this is only 10 for now. It's also missing any kind of audio. If you are an SMS audio whiz, do contact the author Rickoned59 on SMSPower, because he is not any kind of SMS audio whiz. Get this, you'll probably race through that 10 level version and you'll absolutely want more of it. Deathtrap Dungeon. Deathtrap Dungeon has incredible music, like genuinely excellent. Which isn't to say the rest of the game isn't interesting, but it's certainly going to provide a useful backdrop to use to attempt to explain to you what the rest of the game is. The name Deathtrap Dungeon is going to be incredibly familiar to a selection of the 40-something reprobates that YouTube informs me make up the majority of the people watching this. But if it, and the name Ian Livingstone, do not mean anything to you, then he, along with Steve Jackson, is the main architect of the D&D-like choose-your-own-adventure series Fighting Fantasy. And Deathtrap Dungeon is the 6th of those books, dating from 1984. If you don't know the series, know it defined many a childhood and is still going. Livingstone is something of a legend, as well as writing and continuing to write these books. He's the co-founder of a little thing called Games Workshop, and his importance in video games is probably best illustrated by his last job title, Life President of Eidos. Elsewhere, other authors of Fighting Fantasy books include Charlie Higson and Rhianna Pratchett. And so what we have here is an attempt to put a book in a master system. And it approaches it pretty straight. The game automates the dice rolling, both for deciding your stats and in the game itself, following the rules in the book, and the presentation of the actual game is one of giving you the book's text to read and make decisions on, prompting you whenever the paper version would ask you to choose a page. Unfortunately, it does not include a mode for sneakily jamming your finger in to keep your place while you got a preview. It works well. The text is a decent size, striking a balance between readably large and constantly having to press to move on to the next screen, and the general mechanics of the thing work perfectly fine with all the information you need available to you at all times, including during the inevitable fights with more excellent music. If it has faults, they're all inherited from the source medium really. It's just a text-based book here. The fights don't really involve a lot of skill, just getting lucky with those dice, with a further luck check possible to help you along. And the whole thing can feel just a little bit uninvolving as a result. With only the source text to work from, there isn't support for clever spells or anything. It's all just a straight dice roll exercise. And indeed the books in general pretty much just said, if you survive, turn to page X. It's also short. Understandably, this is not yet the full book. There's probably 10 minutes in a run through with what's here, although multiple paths exist, and on that basis you should absolutely give it a try. This has hit its brief and more. I'm sure there are many people hoping a finished version will one day exist. Green Beret. Another arcade game homage here, but a little more fanciful. You're watching Green Beret, known sometimes as the puntastic Russian attack. It's a Konami machine from 1985 whose basic conceit should be pretty obvious by this point. Running, stabby, sometimes shooty fun over several long stages. It got home conversions to most things, but none of those things had a Sega badge on. Until now. Eras won last year's competition with his excellent mini collection of fake MSX conversions, and he's made a very strong attempt to repeat with this conversion to Master System of virtually the whole thing. As I get settled in here, let's repeat the start of that arcade game against this one. It's bloody close. To be fair, Green Beret is a period conversion. The arcade game shares a launch year with the Master System itself after all, but rarely do even conversions of that time get quite this close. I don't know the arcade version, so treating this as a game, it's a top tier little run and stab. There's verticality, there's enemy variety, there's even a couple of guns you can pick up from doomed enemies if you're better at this than I am. Arcade purists will notice the grenades didn't make it in, along with just a couple of the enemies. But other than that, we're pretty much gold. And while it's only 15 minutes or so long because it's an arcade machine, you will get to see it all. No, really. You'll notice I don't seem to be getting a game over. This game has a comprehensively added selection of options. You can change your starting stage, you can change your difficulty, and you can even do what I do and set it to troop level lives, which means infinite. This is accessible, and it was a rare arcade conversion even back in the day that allowed you to customise like this. The intro is spot on to the arcade. It's even got end of level bosses. With just a tiny bit of tweaking, I think if you grafted a Konami logo onto the intro and fudged that copyright date, I think you could get someone to absolutely believe this was a conversion done commercially in the early days of the SMS. And a good one. It's even got the box art to prove it. Stunning work this, and a very strong contender for the top prize. It's absolutely my winner. But decide yourself. All the entries can be downloaded from SMSPower. They all appear to work on emulators, and as you can see, they're all viable on hardware too, so take your pick. Anyone want to make a case for a winner other than Green Beret? I'll see you in the comments, and why not go back and watch last year's video too? Also, sub, bell, like, cribe this video. Thank you.